one thing that I did was I used to like look at the questions that have been asked in paper. If I was reasonably confident that I can answer all these questions within time limit and with my own knowledge, I used to do it immediately. If not, then
RBI 2025 results are out, and now I'm sitting in front of one of the selected students. His name is Utkarsh. First of all, congratulations, Utkarsh, on the
thank you.
selection.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself to all the students who are aspiring for this exam this year? Tell them a little bit about yourself, work ex, education background, what inspired you to write this exam. You have had a long break,
Yeah.
2019 to 25. Why that break, and how was this year different than the other years of your prep? Basic introduction.
My name is Utkarsh Singh. I hail from Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh. I completed my schooling from Ayodhya itself. Then I completed my bachelor's in engineering from BITS Pilani in electrical and electronics engineering. After that, I worked in BA Continuum India. Then I worked in State Bank of India as a probationary officer. And after taking a break, I was selected in National Housing Bank, where I have been working for the past 6 years. So I decided to write the RBI Grade B exam because I felt that it was a field I wanted to work in, and of course RBI is the premier economic organization of the country, so that piqued my interest. So yeah, that's
Wonderful.
basically it.
You started working in NHP in 2019,
Yes.
and you gave RBI exam from 2016 to 19 also,
Yeah.
and then you took a long break of 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
What changed in this time period, according to you, in the examination pattern and the way the paper is made, and what the RBI expects from its students?
The biggest change that occurred in the meanwhile was that the mains paper, has gone from completely objective to a combination of objective and subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, that's the biggest change. Secondly, in terms of field, the questions in both the pre and the mains paper have moved from a GS focused perspective to a more economy wide perspective. Now there has been a higher focus on international economic issues, general studies that is not found in any compilations or any such sources, and there is more of an emphasis on knowing what's going on in the broader economic world, both on a nationwide scale and a worldwide scale.
Hmm. So that requires more analytical skills rather than just the ability to complete the syllabus and know
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, exactly. It's more of a focus on knowing what is happening, why that particular thing is happening, and what its positive and negative impacts are,
Hmm.
rather than just knowing the basic facts about something.
Hmm. When we were talking, you were again and again talking about consistency, the relevance of consistency. What, according to you, does it mean to you as a person, as an aspirant also in the past? And how has it helped you clear the examination or multiple exams for that matter?
So, as I keep telling anyone who will want my advice, consistency is the topmost thing that is needed for, not just for cracking an exam, for doing anything in life. The core of consistency is that you have to do the same boring thing day in, day out, again and again. Obviously, you have to adjust your strategy as and when the situation calls for it. But the crux of the matter is that it is boring. It will be boring. Preparation of something, getting ready for something is always boring. The key thing is to stick with it as long as you can, so that in the end, when the same thing is repeated in the final exams, you are absolutely ready for it.
Hmm. You were talking about sources.
Yeah.
So, and I felt that by talking with you that you have had a very good research on and understanding of what to study, why to study, how to study. So, if you can take the students through the sources that you used
Mm.
or the methods that you followed.
Yeah.
For example, instead of revision, you focused on practicing. So, maybe that. So, in points, different things that you followed that made sure that you were at least mentally ready for the examination.
So my first source was the newspaper, since that is the basis of my preparation. So as long as I know what's going on in the world, I think I'm better placed with in respect of my mindset. it gives me confidence that not reading the entire newspaper, reading just the main things like what is going on in the economic world. For example, the economic page of any newspaper, even if it's just one page, it is pretty important. A bit of sports, because you need to know what is going on in every arena. Then thirdly, the editorial. Some newspapers have also started releasing an extra page, like there's the explained page in Indian Express, and there's something similar to it in the Hindu. So those are also valuable sources. Secondly, compilations do not help a whole lot, but they provide a valuable summary of information that is happening. So in that arena, the compilations of PIB and the financial information of what was happening, both the weekly and the monthly compilations that you released were quite valuable, as they provided a treasure trove of information, to be honest. Thirdly, going back to the original sources, international and national reports, for example, reports released by Niti Aayog and other government bodies, and international organizations like the World Bank, IMF, going back to their original sources, even if we read executive summaries of them and press releases, that is important. Not just reading what did the report say, when was it released, what are its main recommendations. Rather than that, we have to know why exactly it was formed, what impact it will have in the society. So it's not necessary to spend a lot of time on it, but people must have an understanding of what exactly is happening in this report.
What about note making and revision? Because you said that you have not made any notes.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any notes, it becomes very difficult for a lot of students to revise.
Yeah.
Or to whatever they have accumulated over the years, to be able to recall all of that and put it in the paper. How did you overcome that challenge? Was there any plan to overcome that challenge?
Making notes was simply actually not possible for me, because since I work, I had a maximum of 3 to 4 hours every day to study. And while weekends provide more time, they were limited in amount. So I focused mainly on studying for something once, then giving question papers or practice based on that, then revising that again, not focusing on making notes, because that would have eaten up valuable time. So instead of for things that I could not practice on, I chose to revise on them. And even in those cases where I couldn't find things to practice about them, they came into work, because the main things that you can't practice on, those are things like international reports and some other things like the GS that is not based on some compilations. Their practice comes from writing subjective answers, to be honest, because those are the things that you inculcate in your answers.
So you used to do that by writing answers based on those areas?
Not specifically on those areas. I used to do question papers, and I tried to include those things, because subjective questions are formed only from things that are going on currently in the world. And there are a lot of subjective questions, including your questionnaires, which provided a lot of practice that was needed to revise the things that I couldn't practice elsewhere.
So your primary mode of revision was through practice?
Yes, I would say that.
You said that you were studying for 3-4 hours every day, and then probably 10 hours every weekend. Do you feel that it is enough as a working professional to clear the examination, given that, let's say, you have 9 months or 12 months ahead of you?
Yeah, I think that is enough, because to be honest, even I was not using my time 100% effectively. No one can. Personally, I feel I could have used some more efficiency in my preparation. So to be honest, when I can crack it with whatever low efficiency I think I might have had, I think anyone can. Because 9 to 12 months is plenty to get an understanding of what is happening in the world, to write answers based on whatever is happening. I think 9 to 12 months with limited number of hours in the day is plenty. Of course, if someone is not working, if they have time to make notes, then that is even better. Because I'm not saying that notes are not useful, it's just that I couldn't make use of them.
What about the relationship between syllabus and current affairs? For example, a lot of students, when they begin their prep, they directly get either to the newspaper or to reports, as you mentioned, or something else, compilations, etc., etc. and then they miss out on the syllabus part.
Yeah.
Because you have written the exam this year, you have cracked it, you probably are the best person to tell all the students what according to you is the proportion of the syllabus and vis-a-vis the current affairs, so to say. Were you spending a lot of time on the syllabus or not?
I would say I devoted an equal amount of time to both the things, because in the end they ask questions from both areas. They or the question makers also try to focus equally on both the parts. So I would say ki daily I was also catching up on my syllabus, and I was also catching up on the current affairs. But completing the syllabus is a big is a big priority. You have to complete the syllabus. There is no passing the exam without it.
What about maths reasoning? Because maths reasoning में students को बहुत problem होती है. And because last time you wrote the exam was in 2019,
Yeah.
18-19, there's a long break. And you were not writing any banking or any other similar exam at this time. So was there any plan and any specific execution for dealing with maths reasoning?
No, for maths, reasoning, and English, it's just practice.
You just practiced
That's
as much
it.
as
That's
okay.
it.
Okay.
I used to practice whatever things practice giving the realistic time estimates. I'm talking about practicing in papers. So I used to see what were the type of questions that I could not either do or had skipped, and then I used to see whether I can solve those questions with a minimum with the minimal effort. Because the biggest problem in these papers is getting stuck on one particular question and then beating your head over it. Most notably in quant and reasoning. Because if you get stuck on one question, then it is over for you. So my main strategy was do whatever you can, which you can do the fastest. And I think English is purely based on practice itself, because there is no real way of improving that without
Practicing.
having actually done that thing, that practice in real life.
So let's go a little deeper into maths reasoning, because you said practice and it's wonderful. What was the method like? Did you just pick up books and started practicing, or did you just pick up some mock papers and started practicing? How did you do it, or were there layers to it?
I went with the mock papers directly. Because my maths and reasoning is not bad. I would like to say it's not bad. So I decided to just start up questions, and I knew whatever practice papers are there, they have the same pattern that has come up in the recent past, and there's not much reason to suspect that anyone would deviate from that. So I just started up papers. I started practicing them, the mock papers, and whenever there was some question that I thought I could solve with the minimal amount of effort, I tried to read more about that topic, and then I tried to focus on that particular type of question in the next mock paper.
Let's come to previous year questions, because I feel that you have a good understanding of previous year papers. What was the way of going through, and what did you learn from previous year papers?
I did not practice a lot on previous year's paper. To be honest, I did not practice at all on previous year's papers. My main takeaway was that I have to go through them once. I need to recognize what pattern is being followed by RBI for making those papers. What I recognized most of all was that they had moved away from a simple explain this type of particular thing question to a more generalized type of question. Like they used to give you some nebulous concept and then ask you to write your own thoughts about it. That was my main concept. That was my main takeaway. And my understanding was that in order to answer these types of questions, I have to cover more area than I was covering previously, which included, first of all, more topics in newspapers, annual reports. Not annual reports of every organization, just the main organizations like RBI, NHB, a bit of SEBI, and international organizations, Niti Aayog, PIB, these sources, which are not included in any traditional exam preparation, but it is something that the paper is shifting towards.
Let's talk about a little bit about analysis and the constant dance between analysis and facts, which happens in this exam. So how can students build up on the analysis part? Because it's easy to capture and understand the facts. You just need some fact sheets to be able to mug it up. But analysis takes time and it requires understanding. So was there any specific way that you went through to capture deeper understanding of every topic?
For analysis, I would say कि, for the syllabus topics, I think to build up analysis, it is just easier to study books, the main source books. Like the for economics, people generally use Singhania or Ramesh Singh. I think going through them once is a good method of building up the understanding for the syllabus. For things that are not in books, I think reading newspapers, the current affairs of what has been happening in the world, and combining them with the reports that international organizations publish. I think combining them is a good source, because the same thing is repeated again and again. If World Bank releases a report about something, if you read it 2 or 3 days later, you will read it inevitably, you will read it in the newspaper, and it will have the same results, but a new point of view from which you can understand those things. Mostly they'll be focused on India. मतलब if Findex report is released by World Bank, then a few days later Indian Express will carry out a report saying that the Findex report was released and it has this observations for the world. These are for India. For India to improve this, there have been these government schemes released by the government. So these sources, which are not in books, they reinforce each other, and I think that is better than any revision. Like reading the same report 5 times might not help as much, because you're reading the same material without any deeper understanding of it. But reading the same thing from various sources, it provides a deeper understanding of what you can use later.
Understood. What about answer writing? Did you practice a lot of answer writing? If you did, then what was the method of practicing answer writing?
I did practice answer writing mainly between. I learned that I got selected in mains and the mains exam, and it was effectively just pick up a paper, start writing the answers. If I do not know anything about this, one thing that I did was I used to like look at the questions that have been asked in paper. If I was reasonably confident that I can answer all these questions within time limit and with my own knowledge, I used to do it immediately. If not, then I used to see those topics in the morning. I used to spend about an hour, half an hour seeing all those topics from various sources. Then in the evening, I used to sit down and write the answers. I would try not to pay attention to the time limit in the beginning, because no one can immediately start writing answers that fast. I would try to write satisfactory answers, and then in the end I would compare them with the sample answers that you had provided. So that was and I was doing this method ki I do not know much about this particular topic. Now I need to read it up for about an hour on these things, and then I'll give the answer in the evening. I think I was doing that a lot, so that used to help. That actually because if a question is asked about Ayushman Bharat, you do not just limit yourself to Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat leads to India's health India's health details. Then it spills into some other reports that have been published recently. Then it goes on to some other scheme that complements Ayushman Bharat. So you get a nice base on which you can build your answer, and support it with observations from other fields also, which is something that makes the answer better. So this was my main method for writing mains answers. For the English part, which is not as fact based, I just used to write it, because I used to write it, then I used to compare it with the sample, and then I used to see how I can incorporate more viewpoints into it, how I can improve my answer. I did not do a lot of research for it. That was mainly practice based.
Okay, wonderful. There's often a problem with a lot of students right now. In fact, जो भी course चल रहा है उसमें yesterday only I had a weekly session, and the students were telling me that either I am too lazy to write or I'm too scared to write. And that often results in, of course, you not writing or you not attempting papers. But it also goes into objective tests, MCQ based tests, that you're so scared to allow anybody or any paper to judge you that you stop taking tests.
Yeah.
Did you also have that fear? If yes, how did you overcome that fear? या फिर आपके अंदर वो fear था ही नहीं?
No, obviously everyone has a fear of being judged by others, even if it's just a anonymous test machine which counts your scores. So my main I would not say that I have got a method for that. I just decided ki okay, if I'm so scared to be judged, then I should not be writing this exam. If I have to write this exam, then I will have to commit mistakes. Because everyone has to start somewhere. If you do not practice, then you are getting behind someone who is also scared but is practicing. Because getting scared is not a sin, but you have to move ahead despite being scared. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I mean, getting lazy is just again, that is another facet of the same thing. Eventually you will be surpassed by people who are not being lazy.
Right.
So you have to move ahead with practice.
Right. What about the interview? Because I'm getting a feeling that your interview might be very interesting. So how was the interview like? किस तरह के questions पूछे? What was the overall environment like in the interview room? Were you anxious about it, about the interview, or while the interview was going on? What exactly happened?
I was definitely anxious before the interview, and I would like to say that even in the beginning of the interview, I was a bit anxious. But they asked a few questions in the beginning to which I could reply easily. So that helped ease my panic over what they were asking. And I mean, it went on in my mind at the time that if they ask something that I know, I'll answer it. If they ask me something I don't know, I'll not be able to answer it, and no amount of panic is going to help with that. So eventually I settled into a rhythm where they used to ask me questions. I used to answer them. I used to try to, if they asked me something that I did not know, I used to supply my own answer with the reasoning of why I am saying this. But I could not do anything beyond that. So I just tried that. And
any sample questions?
Yeah, I was anxious, obviously. They mainly asked me, first of all, they asked my background. Then they mainly stuck to the international economic affairs, some national economic affairs, and the work that I was doing at National Housing Bank. There are things related to that, like NHB deals with housing finance companies. So they asked me about NBFCs, about housing finance companies, about how the housing sector in India is doing. These general things. They did not delve very much into topics with which I was not related to.
Did they go deep into specifics of NHB, or were they talking generally?
Generally, not very deep into NHB specifics.
Okay.
Their aim was to mainly ask me how much I knew about the broader environment rather than go deep into the organization.
Okay. Any advice that you would like to give to the students, or anything specific that you want to share with the students, thinking that this is what I did, or this is the mistake that I did, and this is what I want you to do?
I would say that my first advice is, I just only have one advice: consistency. You have to be consistent every day. You have to show up and practice every day, because no matter what you decide to do, whether you decide to make notes, not make notes, revise, practice, no matter what you do, everyone has their own path to preparation. But the one thing is that you have to be consistent. You have to build up a streak. If that streak gets broken, it doesn't matter, start it again. And you can afford to miss one day out of 5. That's not an issue. But the thing is to always get back on the track after you fall off it. That is my only, and I think most reliable advice. You have to do it every day.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for that piece of advice. I think that is the most important advice also, because no matter how smart you are, if you're consistent, then nothing can beat you in the long run.
Hard work beats intelligence every time if it is consistent.
Yes. Wonderful. That's all for this beautiful interview. I'm very sure you have learned a lot of new things from Utkarsh, who has cleared the examination this year, and I'm very sure you're going to apply his strategy of being consistent, being methodical, understanding what to do, what not to do in your prep, and using a lot of practicing, etc., in your preparation. I'll see you very soon. Keep watching these sessions if you want to clear this exam, if you want to understand, if you're confused कि किस तरह से exam clear करना है, क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. Keep studying. All the best.